Scotland's fast start left Fiji floundering. My name's Mark, let's talk rugby. No Scotland jersey, so I said I'd go with a Glasgow one, seeing as a lot of our players did pretty well yesterday. Right, let's get into the game. So Scotland, they're camped on the Fiji line the opening minutes. They decide to go wide. Looks like they're surely going to score because they got numbers out there. But then Lamani deliberately knocks it on. He goes to the bin. No penalty try because there was some cover coming across. Scotland then, a few minutes later, they go to the corner from penalty. Set up the maul. Fiji halted initially, but Ashton breaks off, forces his way over to score, but were called back. Schoeman was blocking and is chalked off. Scotland then, they did have a penalty, so they decide to run it. Good work from Darcy Graham, commits defenders, then Rowe takes it up and manages to get over to score, converted for 7 points to 0. Fiji struggling with a man less, conceding a lot of penalties, given a warning by the referee, and just as Lamani is about to come back, they give away another penalty, and it's just one too many. Vota goes to the bin, so temporarily down to 13 with about 40 seconds left, I think, on the first yellow card. Scotland then score before Lamani does come back. Graham plays a bit of a 1-2 down the wing with Ashman out wide and goes over to score in the corner. Sweet conversion from Hastings makes us 14 points to 0. Fiji then ping for crossing in midfield. Scotland decide to take it quickly. There's a pinpoint crossfield kick to Graham from Hastings. He's tackled by who's it? Logan Nimasi, right? Just as he goes to kick it on, he manages to keep his feet though, and Big Fijian just goes sliding into touch in the background. Gets a loose ball first, but initially, even though he gets over, initially he's given us no try, but then we have a review and it is awarded. He did manage to get his boot to the ball to kick it on. Conversions missed, 19 points to 0. Fiji then looking to get a foothold in the game, spread it in their own half, but it's very predictable, and Hugh Jones picks off Muntz's pass. He races over to score, Scotland's fourth during that dual yellow card period, and then conversion makes it 26 points to 0. Fiji then, they do start to apply some pressure of their own, have an extended period down in the corner. They've been going to the corner from a few penalties, not really getting any change out of it, but finally they do drive over. It is held up, but Ashman goes to the bin for pulling it down. We don't have a penalty try though. So then Fiji battering away still at the line. They suck in the defence on the right before going left, where there was plenty of space and plenty of numbers. A little ponderous though, and allows Scotland to actually flood men over there as well. But then Logan Nimisi does really well, makes some good ground, offloads to Armstrong Ravula, who was the guy I think who passed it out to him in the first place, and he gets over to score. And he had actually Vota as well, was there, kind of latched onto him on his back to help him over the line. Conversion missed, 26 points to 5. Hastings then lands a penalty for Scotland to make it 29-5. Fiji though, more pressure from them, and they managed to cross again, clock in the red. I think it was about 44 minutes, so they did well. No errors going 4 minutes over the half time. Lamani, he gets over from close range. It was one of those ones, they're battering away the line, and eventually something gives and he manages to get over. Conversion missed, 29 points to 10 at the half time. Then they continued a mini revival at the start of the second half. Clever little 1-2 at the front of a line out, and Ikanaverde, he goes over to score. One of those ones where he just throws to the guy at the front, he throws it back to him, and then he's gone. And by the time anyone reacts, he's already over the try line. Then Armstrong Ravula lands the conversion for 29 points to 17. Then we have some nice hands out right from Scotland, and Graham wriggles in between two defenders to get over to complete his hat-trick. Conversion makes it 36 points to 17, and Scotland just take back control of the game. At this stage, you have a nice carry from Richardson, gets Scotland close to the line. Then Dobie finds Graham, who came on a really nice line to get over for his fourth. Scotland just beginning to pile on the points at that stage. Then the excellent two Pilotu and Hastings combine in midfield. Hastings with a lovely behind the back pass allows him to get the ball out wide, out to Van der Merwe. He's in space and he just waltzes over to score. Conversion brings the 50-point mark for Scotland. Then we have a nice crossfield kick from Hastings, finds Jones to score in the corner. Conversion makes that 57 points to 17. Then we do have time for another Duhan van der Merwe try, but this one was ruled out at the death, so full time is 57 points to 17. I couldn't find any kind of stats, worth looking at for this game, unfortunately. I did find some for the England-New Zealand game, but not for this one. Would have been nice to see some of the stats, even though it was a bit one-sided, but still, it's always good just to look at the numbers to confirm kind of, what you saw as kind of trends in the game. But let's talk about Fiji first. Fiji under pressure right from the off. Poor discipline leading to those 2 yellow cards and 4 tries for Scotland during that period as well. And, had a bit of a purple patch in the middle, but never really made it a contest. And, struggle at set piece, especially in the scrum. And even when they had those chances to go to the corner from a lot of occasions, couldn't actually get much done for the most part, at least, and it fell away in the last quarter. Yes, they'll be better once they have their French-based players back available to them, but I think their goal needs to be more competitive in between Rugby World Cups. And I think World Rugby, there's a big onus on them to kind of pull the figure out and support them and others in that goal, because for me, teams like Fiji, the likes of Fiji, Samoa, even teams like Japan, who I feel got a bit of a raw deal being made a tier 1 nation without being in a tier 1 competition. They're the only tier 1 nation that aren't in either the Six Nations or the Rugby Championship. And then the other emerging nations as well. I feel like the World Rugby, they're not doing enough to help these guys. Yes, you hear about, like in the islands, things like corruption and stuff like that. But that's where you feel like World Rugby need to just take a closer look and look at how they can support these teams. In terms of just making life easier for them in terms of access to players. We have seen some things for that in terms of the changes in terms of eligibility for players who haven't played for a particular nation for, I think it was 3 years or something. They can then elect to go play for a team that they're qualified for. So yes, the likes of Fiji and stuff are getting players back from that would have played previously for the All Blacks or other nations around as well. And then also having a couple of teams in Super Rugby, but it feels like still more could be done to help them. And it feels like we're going very slow in terms of the creation of tier 1 teams. We're not even getting a new tier 1 team every World Cup cycle, so every 4 years. And when you think of that, like like the likes of Fiji, Samoa, Tonga, right? You have out there. Then you have like other teams like Chile, Portugal, Uruguay. Teams that we've seen kind of go to the World Cup and be exciting there, but none of those are tier 1. And you think like that's 6 teams, right? And since Italy were made tier 1 in the early 2000s, right? They were introduced to to make the Six Nations, right? We've only had one team be made tier 1, which is Japan, and they weren't even put into a top tier into a top tier competition. So that pace has to increase. If we're to get those 6 teams, and we want more beyond that as well, to help them too, it means they've got to get to the point where they can get maybe 2 or 3 teams actually being properly supported as tier 1 nations every World Cup cycle, at the very least. But it's not happening. But anyway, rant over on that. Let's talk about Scotland. So Scotland looked really slick. I think Hastings went well at 10. That centre combination, just pure class at present. Both wingers getting tries. Graham, only recently back, after a long layoff. He was in good form this season, when he was playing, and to get 4 tries as well just shows, that the guy really is back to his good sharpness. Then Jordan, thought he looked good when he came on as well. And it feels like Scotland, they're beginning to build some depth. But just a warning from, an Irish fan who's seen a fair few false dawns in terms of like depth in Irish rugby, right? The depth only counts if they can perform consistently on the big occasions, okay? Because Ireland, for years we talked about, oh yeah, we've got tons of depth, we'll be fine. And then we go into Rugby World Cups, into quarter final, and Paul O'Connell's not available, or Johnny Sexton, or whoever, right? And then we go to the depth that we built, and we realize they're actually not up to the task. So, as I said, it's good to see these players coming through, but sometimes it can be a bit of false dawn. So let's see how those guys, actually perform when it really counts. But it's great to see that Scotland are beginning to have kind of a wider pool, at least, to pick from in terms of not necessarily depth at the absolute top level, but certainly more depth below, and that eventually will lead to it being the same at the top level too, if they keep on going on the same track. On that as well, it's still, you can kind of see Glasgow's success in the URC last year has kind of brought a new hunger to this Scotland squad as well. And it feels like these guys, they've tasted a bit of success. A lot of the guys that are in there from Glasgow, and that's going to rub off on the rest of the squad. Once a team, or a group of players get that kind of feeling of having won something, and they have that kind of knowledge in the bank as well, it really can help you then to kind of take a step further, whether it's with your nation or again with your club, whether it's going to be Glasgow doing well in Champions Cup this year, or even retaining their URC title. So you can see that there is a change of mindset in this group, and that's great to see, because again, as a rugby fan, although when it comes around to Six Nations time, obviously I'm going to be cheering for Ireland to hopefully win the title again. But you want it to be competitive. You don't want teams to be kind of, almost a foregone conclusion of who's going to win. And it feels like the Six Nations is getting more and more competitive, and that's going to help all of the nations in there as well, in terms of just being able to, build their teams, get their standards higher, and then competing against these, the big Southern Hemisphere teams as well, especially when we go into other World Cup cycles. But that's the end of this video. Let me know what you thought about either of the teams in terms of, how they did in this one. How do you think they're going to go in the rest of the games as well in November?